Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Clarity Product webinar. Our host is Chris Neville, and our topic is what your doctor hasn't told you. True health is an inside job. Before I turn the webinar over to Chris, I want to share some of the highlights of his amazing background with you. He has more than 25 years experience developing nutritional products, and he's the VP of Product Development for Clarity. And might I add, the mastermind behind Clarity's flagship nutritional drink called Calibrate. In addition, Chris is the founder of Biophotonics Innovations, and his company is involved with the emergence of exotic energy technologies, as well as research and product development that focuses on the latest scientific findings for longevity. It's always an honor and a pleasure to work with Chris Neville. Hey, Chris, are you there?
I am indeed, and thank you for that, Michelle, and welcome to everybody that's joining the call, whether it be day or evening in your part of the world, certainly over here in Australia. And this evening is really about identifying those things that we find perhaps a little bit confusing in our quest for health. I'd like to think that, those who are concerned are like we're preaching to the converted. But even within those that are concerned about the health and well-being of themselves and or their family, I think it's really becoming evident that there's a very, very noisy market today. And within that, what we've found is that there's a certain element of confusion where even renowned experts have got perhaps even conflicting information about a particular ingredient, a particular approach to well-being, even the amount of water we get to drink on a daily basis. I mean, all of these things can sometimes make it a little bit daunting for somebody as they pursue a new path or expand their path for well-being. So today, we hope that you find clarity. Boom, boom. So on that note, I'd just like to suggest that, when we say that true health is an inside job, what do we mean? In reality, a lot of people have been looking at what they can add to their body that can help their body become more efficient. That's great. They're looking also to the lifestyle adjustments that can be integrated into the life on a daily basis. So developing healthier habits, if you will. And all of those things add up. But when we're looking outside ourselves, we're sometimes missing the mark. And what we mean by that is that we have a lot of mystery around health, where that there is, thousands and thousands of different conditions or ailments that really need to be looked at or treated in a particular way. Rather than signs and symptoms, at Clarity, we prefer to target or look at the true source of aging, sickness, and disease. And so that's what we mean by an inside job. And there is not thousands of different diseases, but only one disease. And that one disease is a malfunctioning cell. Simply put, if the cells that make up your body are healthy, then you are healthy. Take care of your cells by providing them with all the nutrients they need, keep them free of injurious toxins, and disease will not happen. Now, this is taken from a fabulous book and research called Never Be Sick Again by Raymond Francis and Kester Cotton, the authors of that book. And on the right-hand side, you'll see this illustration, a cell or cellular malfunction, and the two causes. When we look at the two causes being deficiency or toxicity, these two causes have actually 6 pathways that lead to that. So deficiency is too little. We don't have enough. Toxicity is we have too much of something that doesn't serve life. And we can look at the 6 pathways as being really how this occurs. Toxins, pretty straightforward. We've got too much toxic waste in our body, then it's a breeding ground for chronic inflammation and many degenerative diseases or conditions. So we also look at medical. Many people today recognize the fact that medicine and its wonders are fabulous in crisis, but potentially if we're looking to medicine as a lifestyle approach, we may also want to integrate the idea that the body has a fabulous ability to adapt and adjust if we can start on the path of at least incorporating some healthy habits. And there's also the psychological aspect of things, mental and emotional, particularly stress and stresses that make up our interactions on a daily basis, can also wreak havoc when it leads to oxidative stress at a cellular level. Then there's also the genetic predisposition of, what we came in with, call it the deck of cards from mum and dad, if you will. And that genetic predisposition can also mean that we have a certain weakness or otherwise in a given area or sensitivity, but that doesn't mean that we can't optimize cell function to be the very best we can be. And then there's physical deficiency or toxicity, and physicality may be everything from lack of activity or movement, but also even to relationships and the people we hang out with. And this is kind of an overlap with the psychological, because it's been shown that depression is sometimes the withdrawal from life, and therefore the lack of connection that we're experiencing with our loved ones around us, or a value or feeling valued or worthy. And this is a hugely important thing later on when we're talking about the true sources of inflammation or aging, sickness and disease. Then, of course, everybody is more familiar with the nutritional aspect of deficiency or toxicity when it comes to purity of foods that we consume or even supplements, right the way through to the deficiency aspect of nutrition, which is the micro and macronutrient. All of these pathways make up the real foundation of whether a cell has too little or too much, and what we can actually do about them. So this is really where we can take a look and say, what are the sources that affect the aging process? What are the things that we look at? Within the aging process discussion, it's been shown that the free radical research or conversation around that, and the literature around free radical damage at a cellular level, certainly has part of the story. And we can go right down to the telomeres at a genetic level, and seeing that as the cell replicates, the telomeres becoming shorter. And if we can extend that cycle of the telomeres staying longer, then there's a direct relationship with longevity as well. So if we can mitigate the causes, being the deficiency or the toxicity at a cellular level, where the body is being overwhelmed by free radical damage and oxidative stress, we can interrupt that, and potentially we have a way of being able to help our body get well, stay well for longer. So what does that look like? Oxidative stress and inflammation. If we think of oxidative stress as really the free radical damage, most people know a little bit about that, or perhaps a lot. There have been many models or analogies that have been given. One of the things that I like is that if you cut an apple and just leave it there, you'll see that it goes brown. That's really oxidation that happens. And the same thing when you put, leave some nails out in the rain or metal, and it eventually gets rusty. This is oxidative stress at work. It's the same thing that happens internally inside the cell. These unpaired electrons that occur with certain molecules will actually have an effect at a cellular level, because it's actually damaging and destroying not only the cell membrane, but also the DNA itself. So the idea of being able to have a way of being able to diminish or decrease oxidative stress, which can lead to inflammation, is critically important. So the two distinctions are what we refer to as antioxidants that we get from our diet, or antioxidants that the body makes. Now, most people aren't too aware of antioxidants that the body makes, and this is part of what we want to cover today, because it's critically important. The global attention from universities and leading research institutions has revealed a common foundation with all degenerative illnesses and ailments, and it is chronic inflammation. if we think of inflammation as a flame or a fire, we can understand the imagery of what can actually happen. And when we come in as a newborn, we have very high levels of primary antioxidants. These are antioxidants that the body makes, and don't confuse those with the antioxidants that you get from your food and your diet, which is where a lot of the marketing of many companies has been focused to date. And so the ability for the body to make primary antioxidants, these are superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione peroxidase. These three primary antioxidants that the body makes are relatively high as we're newborns, and they start to diminish over time. So as the body's primary antioxidant ability starts to diminish over time, what happens is that the defense of the cell and the DNA also decreases. And so you'll see conversely that aging, sickness, and chronic illness increases. So there's a direct relationship between decreasing levels of primary antioxidants and increasing levels of inflammation at a cellular level. And the contributing factors, as we know, are obviously the toxins, right the way through to lifestyle and the other pathways that we mentioned earlier. So inflammation and its hidden origin. When we say it's hidden, most people may think of inflammation as being an ailment that they can experience, possibly even acute inflammation from an injury. But when inflammation occurs in the body, and it does occur on a daily basis, it's really when it shifts from acute inflammation, which is the survival mechanism of the body, to chronic inflammation, whereas this slow, simmering burn, if you will, as happening in the background. And this is really where the root cause of all degenerative ailments are. If we look at inflammation of the brain and the central nervous system, we may be able to see a relationship there with neurological conditions, Alzheimer's and dementia. We could look at the autoimmune diseases or even pulmonary diseases and cardiovascular disease with heart conditions, which is really inflammation of the cardiovascular system. We can look at the skeletal system and look at inflammation of the joints, and yet we may think of it as being arthritis or osteoporosis. All of those conditions are accurate in terms of the different systems of the body, but it really is the idea of a healthy cell of too little or too much, that inflammation has taken hold in that area of the body because it has a potential weakness that's there as well, or it is overwhelmed by toxicity. So what Clarity developed is a flagship product by the name of Calibrate. And Calibrate's really about gene level nutrition. And we refer to it as gene level nutrition because it's not really about trying to support oxidative stress and detoxification, in the liver or in the kidneys or the gut alone. There's systems and organs of the body, yes. But when we can keep going, what is referred to as upstream, all the way to the cell, it doesn't matter whether it's a heart cell, a brain cell, a kidney cell, or a liver cell. They're all cells. And so we want to look at the body from a cellular level and being able to optimize how the cell can get well, stay well, this healthy cell model. And what we've been able to do is identify through a fabulous and emerging area of science known as nutrigenomics. And nutrigenomics is quite simply nutrition that talks to our genes, or think of it as nutrition, genomics, our genes. And Calibrate has been formulated to include some hugely exciting researched ingredients that are patented that have an ability to influence certain function at the cellular level. And we have the bag, which is a 30-day supply, and we have a single serve sachet as well. And it allows us to be able to conveniently introduce some nutrients into our body that have a particular benefit. And this image that we have here is to help you understand, or at least see the simple approach to cellular defense that occurs. And when we think of inflammation as a fire, you can see Secondary antioxidants, or what we refer to as exogenous antioxidants, these are from the external source, from our diet. Why this image is important is that this is where most people have been focused. You know, we've heard about the superfoods and the super berries and, you know, the latest finding, you know, from the top of the mountain or from the jungle. And all of these are very, very exciting inclusions in our diet to color the palate and add a lot of phytonutrients from various sources to our diet. Critically important for sure. But from a cellular perspective, the body is trying to absorb. So it's a bit like the fireman has got the bucket of water, this high-powered antioxidant from food, and yet he's got to deliver that bucket of water to the fire, the inflammation on whatever floor the fire is occurring. So this is the outside in. Now contrast that with the efficiency and the ability for a nutrigenomic ingredient who is not necessarily an antioxidant, or what we refer to as an indirect antioxidant itself. It really gets absorbed and it acts more like a trigger that creates a cascade of benefits. So this fire chief is really the pathway. It's known as the NRF2 pathway, and it's critically important for cellular defense. But why it's so important is that the fire chief, this nutrigenomic ingredient, is able to be absorbed into the body and be able to transit the cell membrane and activate a series of events. It almost like activates the fire alarm, if you will. And the fire alarm, if you see the little candle there, that's the fire before it becomes an inferno. And what happens is by triggering the fire alarm, multiple things happen. The detox enzymes are woken up, or activated as we call them, or switched on. But also you'll see the sprinkler system is also turned on. The sprinkler system is the body making its own antioxidants right inside the cell. This is the exciting area of being able to activate and support the body making more of what it needs at a cellular level before it becomes a problem, before it becomes overwhelmed with inflammation, or before it becomes overwhelmed with toxicity. And this ability for the body to make its own primary antioxidants is really the main focus of Calibrate. It's millions of times more efficient than secondary antioxidants, mainly because it's acting inside the cell where it's needed most. And this is a really critically important factor because it's all about timing. Do we wait for the bucket of water, the antioxidant, to be absorbed? Or are we optimizing the cell to always be at the ready, switched on? Primary antioxidants, detoxification enzymes, continually supporting the cell to stay in this state of balance so it doesn't shift from acute inflammation to chronic inflammation, so it doesn't shift from being overwhelmed by toxicity. And it's where there's a deficiency of antioxidant defense waiting to arrive in the diet, we have now an ability to increase the level of antioxidant defense by upregulating the body itself. That's the exciting part. The gene level nutrition is really an exciting innovation in as much as it's using and incorporating the science of understanding bioactivity of certain ingredients. Some of these, as we mentioned, are patented ingredients, but we're also incorporating a broad spectrum of nutrients as well. It's not in and of itself going to replace a healthy diet or lifestyle by any means, but it's a great inclusion to make sure we get some of those micronutrients that may be missing from many of our modern diets, from things like the chaga mushroom or the shilajit, which are included, that have got, you know, hundreds of micronutrients that are very supportive to optimal health. The product itself is vegan, non-GMO and gluten-free. As you'll see there, there's also no preservatives, no soy, no artificial flavors or sweeteners. And it's infused with QSET. Without going too deep into QSET, QSET is Calibrate's proprietary, let's call it energizing or infusion technology. If you think of all of the ingredients as members of an orchestra, Cue set is like the conductor. It brings everything together on the same song sheet. And so there's this way of infusing products, so that way they have all a harmony that exists there on an energetic level, not just a physical level as well. As I mentioned before, the Calibrate also includes some lesser known ingredients like chaga mushroom and the curcumin. The curcumin as well is tremendously exciting, not only because it's patented. The reason why it was patented as an ingredient is because it has such a high level of curcuminoids. Now, curcuminoids are an area of research that's happening. In fact, turmeric, the spice, is the most widely researched spice on the planet right now. And the reason for that is that if you look at a society like India, where there are over 1.3 billion people in the population base, they have a very, very low incidence of cancer and a lot of other conditions per capita, which is an interesting phenomena. And it's really the introduction of spices and some of these other things in their culinary or food intake that makes it such an incredibly interesting area of research, because there's a correlation between those kind of things. So Calibrate really is, as we mentioned, gene level nutrition. But what are the benefits? Quite simply, it promotes primary cellular defense activity. It's being able to help the body produce more of its own primary antioxidants, the superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione peroxidase, these primary antioxidants that neutralize and help the body, neutralize free radicals and oxidative stress, and help the body to establish or maintain this balance or homeostasis, if you will. It also supports increased energy, stamina, and recovery. Now, when you eliminate toxicity from the body, what you're doing is you're allowing the body to have more energy, figuratively speaking, to get on with the business of rejuvenation and regeneration when it's not combating this overwhelmed state of inflammation and oxidative stress. There's more energy that's naturally freed up to experience well-being, this level of vibrant health. It also helps enhance mental sharpness and acuity, what we refer to as clarity. Helps eliminate toxins, including heavy metals. One of the ingredients in the formula forms what we refer to as sulforaphane. Now, sulforaphane has been, again, highly researched. In fact, there's over 1,000 white papers that have been produced on the research and the benefit of sulforaphane. Now, sulforaphane is not an ingredient. Sulforaphane is formed when a particular compound from, in this instance, broccoli sprout itself, is actually blended with an enzyme called myrosinase, and it forms this sulforaphane. And what it does is it triggers a whole cascade. In fact, over 200 genes are activated that are responsible for cellular defense. And part of that is metallothionein, which is activated by sulforaphane, which helps bind to heavy metals and to eliminate them from the body. Tremendously important to get well and stay well. Supports immune function, as we mentioned there, and mitigates the effect of inflammation and oxidative stress, etc., etc. So we have mentioned that purity and potency are really the key areas of what we focus on as far as the ingredients are concerned. So it's vegan, non-GMO, and gluten-free, and of course naturally without preservatives or artificial flavors. The introduction of the Calibrate stick sachets is tremendously exciting because it enables an individual to travel, to be able to incorporate it on a daily basis. Just to throw a couple of stick sachets in your purse or your pocket or your travel bag is really, really easy. But another aspect of it that some of our more passionate advocates for clarity enjoy is that it makes it really easy for sharing. And just to be able to pull out a stick sachet and to share that with somebody so they can taste and experience, the Calibrate benefit is really a great way to spread the love, if you will. And we're very excited about the inclusion of that product and making the convenience so much more readily available. So what we refer to as health is a habit. It's not an event. Health is really about doing those things on a daily basis that help support life, and also cutting back or removing or even limiting some of those things that diminish life. And they are all about the six pathways, as we mentioned, to getting well and staying well or maintaining a healthy cell. But it's about relationships. It's about air and water and exercise. It's also about being engaged in things that you're passionate about. There's great research around getting well and staying well. When somebody feels as if there's a purpose in their life, or there's call it a higher calling, if you will, but there's some meaning, and it could be just incorporating more of those things that add joy. Music and art and entertainment, they're always great things to include. And others, it could be a spiritual involvement with the church or otherwise, and in helping other people's lives become a little more harmonious, and certainly to contribute somewhere within the community. All of these things are healthy habits. They make up who we are as human beings, but also add tremendous value as well. And rather than thinking that, we had this event of I ate an apple today, that was my healthy event, it really is about including more and more of these things on a daily basis that can help shift our life from a trajectory that could potentially lead to disease or disharmony, and allowing ourselves to enjoy the benefit of a healthy, vibrant body. And on that note, obviously, with everything that we share with Clarity, we're not making a statement of treatment or cure or disease mitigation. We're about looking at the foundations of the ability for the body to get well and stay well. And so what's really important is that we recognize that you are the captain of your ship, and it's really important to become informed and make wiser decisions. And we hope that for those that are concerned about their health and well-being, and that potentially they're a little confused about what choices to make, that today's presentation has provided some form of clarity. And on that note, I'd just like to invite any of you that have just recently heard about Clarity products to incorporate the calibrate into your life, but more importantly, the kids as well. Something that I didn't mention a little earlier there, the kids product is absolutely stunning. And all I can say is that the results are speaking for themselves. Try it, enjoy it, and share it. On that note, I'd like to say thanks very much for taking some time to tune in with us, and have a good day or good evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that wonderful presentation. And there are testimonials on the Clarity website at clarity.com. That's CLAR, the number 8, TY.com. Thank you.